Robert was a so-called Yanni. A teacher from a tradition, but it was identical to the tradition I grew up in. In the spiritual practices which I learned, which is to go totally within as far as you can go, as long as you can go there. Because after a while, you're aware of two realities. The one of being a human with a name, a function, things to do. And the other being of spotless perfection, feeling the delight of God as one's own. Being down here inside, is being closest with my energy source. Inside my chest and gut. And being in the place of absolute happiness. At times it even feels like I drip happiness. I'm very happy during the 25 minutes of meditation. And the breaks between periods of sitting and going deep. This practice, after a while, can grow into one of watching the mind, watching it drop into your gut, and feeling the total expansion and love that that brings to you by getting rid of the mind. I know you'll cheat now and then, even after obtaining this, because you're so attached to the world. And even the problems of the world seem familiar, safe. While unending satsang or meditation down to your root level leaves you exposed to invasion. This feeling of being at home increases over the years. As well as the felt intensity of the pleasure state of having gone beyond the mind altogether. I'm absolutely happy now. This continues until I get deeper and deeper with the happiness. Strangely, there's no mind here. There's only beingness and emptiness. And then when we come out of satsang, we come out of sitting, we're very quiet and it feels great. And after a few minutes, we're thinking about chores we have to do this afternoon. A dying friend. And just feeling my own station in life as a kind of living statue. About the beauty of having gone beyond the mind into sheer emptiness. These states continue over the years. The bliss state gets more powerful time after time after time, and has at least the strength of the everyday mind. If you're deep into your non-mind self, we had a little earthquake there. If you can settle into your non-mind self.
Is it power?
I think so. We may have a perfect.
Oh, something or different.
It wasn't plugged in.
And now it's plugged in?
I don't know. I think it is.
Yeah, we're good.
Zoom meeting is not responding.
Yeah, wait for your promos. Um, No, no.
We see you, Edgy. There's two of you. Now there's just one of you. You're okay. But you're muted.
So, what's going on? When we dive within? This form of practice is kind of rare. The more usual is for traditional sitting to take place until the student is comfortable at these deeper levels and can hear the teachings about these deeper levels. But to continue going deeper and deeper is not a usual state. It's not usual even for yanis. They get to the state that they're in by getting rid of their minds and resting in the base state. Only aware of their own existence. When you reach this state, you can stop. Don't go any deeper. Let the feeling of depth take over you, and you can sink in it ever deeper. And just drop the mind and be in mindlessness for a while. You're not going to be in the new world of the before mind. If you don't perceive the difference between mind and no mind. And you'll begin to see that mind drops down into your mind when you can't hold on to the emptiness anymore. And you'll hear talking starting and feelings of busyness. And you'll see that your time of meditation is over. It's gone. But repeated doing of this, going deep within, staying there and coming without, leads to the ability to know the mind, to see the mind, and not to react to the mind. Instead, we see the purity in us of the no mind state. And at the same time, we see the temporal existence created by the mind. And we can choose between the two, to go between the two. But choose to go between the two. And one day when you're not in satsang, by yourself maybe, you'll be able to detect that you're in samadhi. You'll be happy. But you'll also observe that the mind is still there, waiting to take over. Once you leave the depths of self, being lost in the depths of one's own self is a wonderful experience. It takes you away from humanhood and the life of a human and becomes life of the divine, of the holiness lying beneath the existential mind, the purity lying beneath the existential mind that can be had once you can plunge deeply into yourself. This is when you begin to realize that the world is not real. There's a deeper awareness where mind is not present. And it's like a dream. You're just an observer. And there's absolute bliss and happiness. All this from just going into stillness inside yourself. Yeah. I went through times of ecstatic bliss that lasted days, and they hung together like clouds of days. And I was in total happiness. I wasn't in the depths all day, but just part of the day. This experience is what led me to watch the mind and see the mind as separate from me and everything about the mind as not my true residence anymore. My true residence lies deep within myself. And there's no movement here. But movement comes after a while to the meditator. Takes them back to the earth one. Somewhere along in this process, you truly discover that mind is separate from the deeper self within and needs to be tamed. And one of the things that can really contain it is feeling the bliss of no self. Of non-existence. This is why so many people yearn for death, because they remember a state wherein they were dead, and yet they were ecstatic and happy beyond belief. So they try to recapture that way. But they captured it by going deep within themselves. And they just persist in doing that. And sometimes they encounter satsangs with the deepest, deepest, deepest kind of existence. Where the holiness seems to emerge. Within this new mind that is not moving. That you see as your deeper self. And it seems everything is set up in such a way that you don't reach this level of happiness and being able to witness self-consciousness and self-consciousness without anyone there. And you get to the place where in everyday life, you see the world of mind all around you. But it's illusion. The real moon to you now, or reality to you now, is what you see in satsang. And you can actively see the difference between mind and prior to mind consciousness. So it seems to all make sense now. There's the world of the mind, which started when you were a few months old and has continued until you are an adult, and which keeps you imprisoned in the world of mind until you go more deep into that string of consciousness that takes you within. Those strings of consciousness take you deep within. That absolute. It's like an abasement there. And here you rest for 15 minutes or a half hour or an hour at a time in complete happiness and bliss until you decide to come out. The things we do for enlightenment are amazing. One of my teachers, a very funny guy, although he didn't work at being funny, he was just funny. When he was an early monk, he knew he had a fear of falling. So he knew he should overcome this fear. And therefore he practiced by putting a plank across an entrance to a deep well. And he slept on that plank every night, defying that fear he felt. That would be a perilous voyage indeed if there was only one mind, which is the mind of thought, and not another mind, the mind of being. Which is ultimately formless. Okay. Radha snuck into Satsang. She went back to sleep. Even the animals can feel the depth of happiness and want to be there themselves. But this depth of happiness will increase in you until sometimes it's so strong you're unable to move or to think. You'll just stand there or sit there. In such peace that you can't move. And with an intensity you can barely grasp. No. That cloud of thoughts that make up the thought world underlines it, underlining it. Is the world without thought. And that becomes available to you all the time too. And you're able to be either in no mind, in ecstatic submersions in the self, or you can come outside, ready to wake up and begin a day. But the ecstasy, when feels, is the self pulling you inside. In a sense, saying to you, look at me, look at me, look at me, that field of darkness that's getting closer and closer. But let the darkness take you over. You will feel that happiness I'm talking about. But you had to let go in a way you normally wouldn't. But you felt that this was a railroad trip to God. Like it was your body, but not so. It wasn't yours. It was a body. But you'll find out that for the rest of your life, all that you want to do is to get back into that feeling of being both alive and immortal within you. That's on the other side in the no mind world. The world of the mind becomes very boring after a while. But that same mind, in a context of extreme bliss, from lowering into that no self, brings the whole feeling of body, mind into ecstatic peace and bliss. And you begin to really become detached from the external world. Or if there were any questions or comments.
Hi, Edji. How you doing?
Good.
Good. Me too. I really liked your talk today. You're revisiting really the same topic that you always do, but you found a new way to parse it, looking at it from a different, fresher angle, which I appreciate. You used the term strings of consciousness, which I found was interesting, and I wonder what actual experiential thing is behind that concept, but it's not neither here nor there. So you've at one point said that enlightenment after a certain point of sadhana becomes an automatic process. So is another way of looking at that or expressing that is saying that once you get past a certain point of detaching from the forces that bind, that delude, whatever, that once you get past a certain point in sadhana, it becomes largely intuitive / instinctive thing that goes on, that snowballs into deeper and deeper realization.
That's true. Exactly true. You develop a relationship with God. So one day it's God, the son of a bitch. And the next day it's God, the savior and light of the world. And I've known people that claim enlightenment, that talk about their relationship with God all the time, that God's over there in the corner blessing us or some such thing. But I don't choose to make that emphasis. I choose to grab onto the joy when it really appears deep and ride that down into ever more deeper experiences of bliss and non-existence. Finally taking you away from existence in the world and preferably going to a place where you can see through the world and live underneath it in the bliss of God. About the second message, I'd like to give you. Just never stop. No matter how deep you think you are, there's always deeper. Whatever guru you think is deeper than you, there's still another deeper than both of you. And when you finally give up doing that compare and contrasting, you just rest in exquisite peace. Any questions? Radha's ready to answer.
Edji, I don't have a question, but that cat is very cute.
Yeah, she is. 9 years old. Or 10. Or 14, Rima says. Tom, any questions?
I appreciate what you did today. You spoke to me. Thank you.
Jay?
Yeah, I just followed your words and I went somewhere. I think I was aware of them. It was incredibly powerful. I had like a tectonic kind of thing emotionally that just sort of turned my world upside down, and I took all the messages from your satsangs to try to restore the mundane world, to just to be able to cope, and such things as the Leela, the play of God, the fact that it's a movie, trying to parse terms like, you know, what is real. But I read somebody wrote that an enlightened person regards the mind the way the unenlightened regard weather. And I thought that was perfect in a way. It made it something that, with an awareness that didn't take the toll on me that the mind does unless I can find a way to deal with it. And again, today you allowed me to find that way. And I'm just crushed. I love where you take me. And it's, God manifest, God abiding, God's grace. And it's you just, today was exquisite, and thank you. I love you so much.
I love you too.
I didn't think I opened my mic, which probably would have been better if I hadn't, but that's okay. At least I did.
Eventually, you live with two minds. The mind of no mind, where the mind is not present, and the verbal mind, which has cloaked us since childhood, and which Westerners regard as real. To be able to give that up, that activity of the Western mind that finds meaning in activity, has no place in just resting in no mind, which brings peace of an immeasurable depth. And it keeps coming back. Time after time after time, the peace comes back. Sometimes so deeply that it's hard to breathe. The experience is so sharp. At other times, you feel just sort of dreamy, laying in between the two worlds. But when you do see the mind as a background noise maker, and it's no more than just words, which you've used your entire life to talk about other things. When you just see that it's a mode of communication, and that much of what you see in the world is due to that mode of communication as opposed to really being there for all to see. The sooner that arrives, the more mature your practice will be, because you won't keep chasing the experience. You'll settle with the experience. Bernadette, any remarks?
Thank you. This was very beautiful, very powerful. I don't know what to say. It just felt so perfect and familiar, everything you said. And I guess just what's important to me is just that relaxing into beingness and allowing myself to be pulled into it as often as possible, and just like all the experiences you talked about, just it was powerful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mark?
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to add on was that I now realize that one mistake, or I don't know if it's a mistake, but I was unconsciously or consciously enjoying the euphoria that would come with going deep into beingness. And I was kind of like chasing that a bit, and it was kind of keeping me from going deeper because the euphoria isn't always there, or it's not always as strong. So I was, by being conditional in my understanding of what beingness was, I was kind of self-sabotaging to a degree. But I think I've matured past that, because now I see that my realization, instead of being like, before it was more episodic and temporary, the depth, but now it's more global and continuous. This has happened over the last few years. And recently I've had an outpouring of grief, which was spontaneous and which was unexpected and which was very deep and which is unusual for me. And I think that that's shows my increasing refinement and depth and maturity in the process. So thank you again. It was an excellent talk again. Yeah.
I'd like to invite you to have a regular satsang on this channel on some of the other days, so that whatever day you pick, I know you come often on the other days, but I'd like to make it official.
Well, I've been kind of informally doing that a little bit on Mondays. But
Okay.
yeah.
Let's, for now, set it for Monday. And we'll have satsang on Monday too, with Marky Poo as the teacher.
No pressure, Edji, no pressure. I really appreciate you not leaning on me at all.
Will you be there, Edgy, to chaperone us on Monday, or is it?
Oh,
Okay, well, I just wanted to be clear on that, because I know Sundays are powerful, and that, again, now that you're here and we have you Sundays, it's exquisite and tremendously regenerative, and I rejoice in it. And again, just this was extraordinary today. Thank you.
Adam is showing us the deer that he feeds in the morning on his back porch. It's so cute.
They all wanted to come to Satsang too. Just required a bribe.
Well, we're all going to come there and live with you, so we can see the deer every morning.
That'd be great.
Where do you live?
Texas.
Where in Texas?
In Austin.
When what?
Austin.
Don't know where it is. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Any other statements? Insults? Anybody? Insults?
Hi, Edji.
Hi.
Jackson here. Yeah, it was a fantastic talk. The part you talked about how people remember their no-self death states, and it's kind of an unconscious drive to dive deep within, and definitely resonated with that. And just, I don't know, when I'm feeling bliss, sometimes I just feel like I'm dead. It just comes, and it gets more and more ecstatic and more like likable and less repulsive and like scary. Yeah, I felt it sometimes here, and it's great. I resonated with that, and I'm sure other people here do as well. But thank you.
Good. Good. Thank you. The deer are still there. Okay. If you want to continue after I leave, feel free to just sit in meditation and shut the fuck up. Leave the voice alone, leave the mind alone, leave thinking alone. Just go deep into yourself and find that bliss there. Okay, bye-bye.